Hey everybody, and welcome along to Evergreen Gardens. Evergreen Gardens is the fifth scenario from the RCT base game list. Again, a pretty iconic scenario, I'd say to most people. I can't say it's one of my favorites kind of growing up because I found the size of the map a little intimidating and a little bit hard to manage, particularly from, guests getting lost perspective. Now, upon revisiting it though, I'm actually quite excited at the prospect of taking it on because a lot of the decorating is actually already done for you. So it's just going to be a matter of tying in some rides to bring it all together into hopefully somewhat of a cohesive park. Now, back a few years ago, I put out a RCT scenario showcase video, which was basically just a quick little overview of the RCT base game scenarios that I'd completed in somewhat recent years. And you can actually see what I put together the last time I tried Evergreen Gardens. Although this was at a time prior to starting my YouTube channel, so I didn't do like a playthrough recording. However, I didn't really take full advantage of all of the space, so I'm keen to, try again and make better use of the map and, try and fill out as much as we can, basically. Anyway, so onto the first part of the build. So we got started by creating a bit of an entrance plaza at the end of that really nice row of trees just after the park entrance. I definitely wanted to keep those. We also cut off access to most of the pathing network as well, just so guests wouldn't get lost and grumpy and want to leave. Then we added in our first ride in the carousel, kind of along that midway. It seems to be where I put the carousel most times I play Evergreen Gardens, actually. And then we got started on our first coaster of the park in a terrain-hugging Steel Mini. Now, this is actually inspired by a Steel Mini coaster that I made in that earlier playthrough that I mentioned. Although this is a bit smaller overall, but I think it flows a little better. The other one I made was quite a bit longer, and it was cool how it was such a lengthy layout given the relatively small lift hill. But this one has quite a few swooping turns, which are also great for hillsides, I feel, as well. It really helps kind of conform with the terrain nicely, I feel. I named it Butterfly Crusade as I wanted to make this small area bounded by all these tall trees into somewhat of a kid's theme, I guess. So I gave the coaster cars all different colors. However, the coaster might actually be a bit intense for the kids theme, but never mind. I think it'll work out pretty well. You might have also noticed that I haven't opened the park yet, so I'm going for a bit of a different strategy here with using the pay on entry. I mean, in RCT1 you can choose whether you do pay on entry, pay for the rides, or both. In this case, I thought I'd try something different and go for pay for entry. So what I'm going to do is build enough rides before I open the park such that I can charge the maximum entry fee possible, kind of, before right when I open the park. For this scenario, it's about $60 that you can charge, I think, realistically, because guests spawn with between $70 and $100 in this scenario. If you charge more than 60, guests tend to leave the park straight away, which I think is it's probably good for a cash flow perspective, but I kind of do want the guests to stick around for at least a little bit. So this isn't what I usually do, but it's always fun trying something new from time to time. Speaking of new, I actually go on and build another new steel mini coaster kind of closer to the park entrance, just to try and consume this awkward space up on the hill, just as you kind of look right after you enter the park. I was thinking of a monorail station here, but decided it would involve too many kind of corners and just make using other rides in the area more difficult, just because, I don't know, the monorail track just looks kind of clunky, I feel, and would have had to use lots of turns and stuff to get it into this entrance area. At this stage I also only had the wooden coaster as well, and I didn't really think I had the space for a wooden coaster here, so as well as that, I'm planning on using that in the back area of the park, kind of near the forest. Anyway, so this coaster actually ended up being the less intense of the two, just because the max drop height is a fair bit smaller and the overall speed, average speed, is less. So I think it makes it for a perfect sort of coaster near the front of the park. A nice sort of warm up, I guess. Also gave it the log cars just as a point of difference with the first steel mini coaster I did. So after I built that, spent some time decorating and merging in different trees and shrubs with what was already there, just kind of kept it pretty dense, lots of shrubs, sort of went for a forest theme, I guess. I think with the larger map here, I did want the entrance area to be somewhat undisturbed and give it a bit more emphasis and give it a bit more space rather than just drowning this area in rides. And also, I wanted to kind of capture a more tranquil garden feel. Anyway, just because it's called Evergreen Gardens, so I feel like a nice little calm, peaceful sort of entranceway makes sense here. After I'd finished decorating that coaster, and the first steel mini coaster, in fact, unlocked the log flume, which was perfect as I wanted to include one of these in the Roman themed area on top of the hill here. This is a much smaller design than I usually do, but I was conscious of running out of money given I hadn't opened the park yet. I made it just big enough such that it satisfied the stat requirements, and made it a big enough contribution to the park entrance fee that I could charge. But yeah, it's pretty basic, just a few nice flowing curves. It's only got like 3 drops, but gets the job done. I called it the aqueducts because I wanted to, bit of a testament to the aqueduct technology that I believe the Roman Empire came up with. Then I moved on to the base of the hill, just towards the bottom of the log flume. I wanted to consume this rather large area with a couple of car rides. Mainly because the area to work with was a little bit odd in shape in terms of like the base of the hill between the big flower garden and the river. So yeah, I thought this would work quite well, and another coaster at this point seemed a little excessive. So yeah, I went with kind of a racing car ride, if you will. They are pretty simple layouts, but wind in and out and cross that river in a couple spots. It was, however, really difficult connecting them back to the station, as I kind of restricted myself in the space just at the back there, and I also kind of neglected the fact that I needed to get in entrance and exit pathing as well. But we got it all figured out in the end, though, thanks to a bit of terraforming, which helped us out. I ended up going underground to finish off the car rides a little bit, which wasn't ideal, but I didn't really want it to intrude on the log flume area. So yeah, that's kind of what I went for. As it turns out, car rides are actually pretty handy, I think, for pay-on-entry scenarios, as they each contribute 50 guests to the soft gas cap, which is pretty decent. Not to mention they will help boost what we can charge for our park entry fee for, a relatively low cost. I mean, I probably did spend a couple grand on each of them, but they were pretty long. But yeah, I think they're relatively cheap for what you get. I think, I've grown to appreciate them. Once we connected all of that pathing up, we then added the twist, or scrambled eggs, to the corner of that hedge path in that kind of quiet area of the map. As for some reason, I like the carousel. It kind of always made sense to me there, and I don't know, just it seems like it belongs there. So yeah, I put it there again. And after some quick calculations on the side, just adding up what I should have been able to charge for each ride, I then decided it was time to open up the park and all the rides. So yeah, I started off with a $60 entry fee. Conveniently, I unlocked the information kiosk right when the park opened, so I got one of those in just right at the park entrance there. As expected, I had a nice little influx of cash when I opened up, which was great, as I was getting pretty close to maxing out the loan, actually. The max loan size is 40 grand, which is very generous, but I ended up using about 33 to get all these initial rides in, which was slightly more than I was expecting. I guess I spent like a lot on scenery, but it's all good. We're making good progress, I think. I then went back to the main entrance plaza of the park and kind of extended it a little bit just to incorporate a small statue. Just wanted to get like one little extra loop of path there just to extend the entrance area, and kind of, I don't know, to me it made sense to merge it into that long path up to the top of the hill. Now, one thing that was bugging me about that hill to the left of the entrance area from when you walk in was, well, I was planning to leave it just sort of plain for vegetation, but it was looking kind of weird having a ride on one side of the path and not the other, so I decided to add another car ride. Now, I've been inspired by Brian Andrelzik with his recent scenario playthroughs. I think he makes really good use of car rides in awkward little spaces like this. So, as well as that, like I mentioned before, I've also grown kind of fond of car rides in recent times. There's just something so charming about them, I feel, and they're also relatively good value, I think, particularly in pay-for-entry scenarios. I was going to use a Ferris wheel on this hill, but I thought that would be more appropriate for the lake, so going to reserve that ride for there. I gave this car ride some different vehicles and the trucks as well, just to, again, point of difference between the other car rides as well as a different color. I do make a couple small adjustments to the layout before decorating the area. It's a similar theme to the other side of the path. And then we add in a couple concession stands for the park on top of that hill. I wanted to turn some of those rarer trees on top of the hill, which you can't actually, build in the game, into a bit of a focal point, and as a base for a bit of a sitting or viewing area overlooking that entrance plaza on top of the hill there. To do this, I thought it would be appropriate to actually remove a few of the trees that I had placed down earlier. So yeah, it was just looking a little bit dense up there, and I wanted to have a bit of a clearing, so there's a nice little vista into the valley. It was then time to start decorating the Roman area. So I started off by adding in more of the columns around the pathing loop up on top of the hill. You originally start with a few of those scenery pieces. You needed to research the Roman theming to build more of it. I basically wanted to just complete that loop of columns around that path, so that I could create somewhat of a square up there. So I just add some fountains and a statue and a couple little ponds. I also thought I really didn't want the Colosseum scenery piece to go to waste either, so I kind of set that to the side of this little square a little bit, along with doing a bit of landscaping. As I thought what I could do here is place a monorail station here eventually, which will kind of fit under the Colosseum and then go back out over the main midway. So yeah, that's kind of a placeholder which I'll get going probably on the next part of the build. So yeah, lots of shrubs around this area too. The idea behind all this was that this is all kind of an ancient Roman ruins, with the most intact part of it being up on the hill here. As we move down the hill in each direction, it would slowly become kind of more sparse. So that's kind of why I went for, just random, or seemingly random, like bits of columns and walls around the place, along with shrubs everywhere. So yeah, around the log flume, there's lots of those seemingly random walls and columns and shrubs, lots of shrubs, because I was intending to kind of show the ruins being kind of overgrown and reclaimed by nature over the years. On two of the hills, though, I did create a little bit of a kind of garden path, as I did want to, blend this into the whole Evergreen Gardens concept. So yeah, kind of a bit of a Roman gardens, if you will, on either side of the hill there. I then took the style down into the 2-car rides as well, where the vegetation became even more dense. I probably spent, maybe a bit too much time and money on this area, considering how early in the scenario we are, but I think I just kind of got hooked on it, and I think it turned out reasonably well in the end. I was just kind of feeling in the zone, I guess, so I just kind of went all out. At this point, I unlocked a few more gentle rides, and so I added in an observation tower near the brick wall area, just on top of that mound. I think it would be a nice place for it at the base of the lake there. Added in another food stall there too. And then I decided it was time to add the first really big coaster for the park. So at this point, we had unlocked the looping coaster, and what I wanted to do here was use a layout that I had made on a quite old playthrough I did of Evergreen Gardens. I believe it was actually the RCT2 replica of the Evergreen Gardens scenario in the mid to late 2000s. So yeah, it's just a really old save game that I just happened to have lying around. Yeah, anyway, so originally I did do a corkscrew coaster here, but I really want to use that for an arrow looper somewhere in the park. So instead, I substituted the track for like the Schwarzkopf looping coaster track. So it's a rather tall layout and almost reminiscent of some of the larger Togo stand-up coasters in Japan. It has a few large drops after the lift hill, but then goes into a large swooping turnaround into a vertical loop. Then a pretty quick airtime hill, another turnaround into what I think is a really fun little path flyby, and a high-speed turn across the river. Then goes back across the river, then a little section parallel to the first little bit, and then a couple turns into the final brake run. Now I found the ending of this coaster to be a bit of a challenge. It did take me a few attempts to come up with that final little bit, but I eventually settled on a diagonal drop over the river, which I think turned out really nicely. Into a helix and then into the brake run. So before it was just more of a swooping turn and then a couple helixes, but now it's a bit less track from what I originally had planned out. But yeah, I was pretty happy with the change, and I think it has some fun path interactions as well, just towards the end there. Another change I made was with the vertical loop placement. So with the changes I had made to that little bit of pathing, the loop was a little bit offset relative to that path. So I wanted to move the loop so that it would kind of line up perfectly. I was tossing around a few ideas, including a double loop, but eventually settled on just including a flat section run up to the vertical loop. So yeah, I think it would make for a really nice bit of tension leading into the loop. It's a pretty fast airtime hill straight after as well, so I think it would definitely be a pretty intense section of the ride. Just on that coaster, I was struggling to come up with names, so if you have any suggestions, I'd love it if you put them down in the comments. Anyway, I think that's just about all I've got time for. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. It's finally time to release the new Fix My Coaster Layout video after about a year and a half. Yeah, keep your eye out for that one later in the week. Thanks again, and look forward to hopefully seeing you next time. Cheers, bye.